Yeah. Okay, so welcome everybody to our December meeting of the Literature at Lunch Roundtable. It's December, and we know that a lot of people take the month for vacation, and a lot of people have a lot of responsibilities on their plate, and ha hopefully our attendees have a lot of good food and on their plate as well, so we can all enjoy this. And there is some single malt liquor for anybody who wants to enjoy. And I know Alex will join me at the end of the session, and will applaud. He and his wife are really pillars of the community, as is everybody here. The over 55 group and the over, Helene, should I say? The over, no, Helene has a lot of experience, put it that way. She's gone way beyond her social work career. She's a great healer. She's a great listener and a great conversant, and has a real feeling for poetry and for people, as we all do. We're all people of the book. And in the South Bronx. I grew up in the Bronx. I'm very proud of it. I grew up on the Bronx bomber, as they say, a Bronx bomber.
So where in the Bronx were you?
Where in the Bronx? I lived in what's called the Crotona Park section, East Tremont.
Yeah.
It's where Hank Greenberg grew up in a home across the street from us. And there were three synagogues that we went to. It was really a Italian, Jewish, Irish neighborhood. My dad was the doctor for that whole area of the Bronx. They went to my doctor. My dad was the doctor for everybody. He had an office practice on the Grand Concourse, which is like Park Avenue. And at any one time, he had 40 people waiting. I used to go up there and say, how do you keep these people waiting?
It's the building.
It was a Flatiron building at Tremont Avenue. And it's a Flatiron building. The replica is in Manhattan on 23rd Street. It's a very narrow building, and it was medical arts building. So if you were a doctor or a dentist, that was where my dad had the upper floor. My dad was the prince of medicine in the Bronx. He really was. That's one of the reasons I shied away from medicine. I couldn't take it. He was the prince. Everybody, they adored him and got so many honors. And I wound up medical school for 2 years. That's one of the graduate schools I went to, medical school. Went to 3 graduate schools. And that's one of the reasons, Helene, that I've been blessed with this great education, as well as business and educational, academic education. So it's my pleasure to share my experience and my minimal wealth with you guys. So it's a pleasure. I'm glad you're here. So I want to first dedicate this program to 4 members, close members of my family. I have 4 yard sites, 4 memorial days for close members within 30 days. I mean, it's a very heavy month for me, particularly the month Kislev, which is this month. Mom, dad, brother within 15 days.
Wow.
Different years, but the same month. Kislev, yeah, Kislev. And then my grandfather, who was a rabbi in 4 countries, buried in Israel, he died 15 days earlier in Israel. So we have a lot of skin in the game. And so it's my pleasure that you guys showed up, because, hey, I enjoy doing this. Come hell or high water, I'm here. If I had 2 people, I would do it. And Helene walked in, and then you guys walked in, Dr. Bruce, and
We're not done. Mark would still come.
yeah, people may come. You never know. I invited somebody from Israel, and he may show up. I don't think he will, because he usually responds to me. Okay, so where are we in terms of our literature at lunch? Okay, we have the literature in front of us. Everybody should have a copy of the poem. If you don't, please take a copy of the poem. Now, question is, why did I choose this poem? If Mike was here, Mike Moshe Brown was here, he'd always, why did you choose it? Okay, I chose it because of 2 things. Number one, our rabbi mentioned it during his sermon about a month ago. And he said, and he also mentioned it in his article that he has in the bulletin. And I went right to it and I said, wow, this poem really speaks to me. Why does it speak to me? Because it deals with a subject that we are all closely involved in. It's called joy, Joy.
They provided these.
Now, why is joy so important? To me, joy is such a part of the Hebrew tradition, the Jewish tradition, because we celebrate Simcha. We try to maximize the Simchas. Sason and Simcha are two interchangeable definitions for the word happiness or joy in Hebrew. And our liturgy, our service, so to speak, is circles itself around the idea of joy. I mean, you look at the prayers are some full of Psalms, and Psalms are so full of how do you attain joy in this world where you have so much tragedy and so much negativity and so much dissension and so many forest fires and drones. This is the new plague of America, is the drone warfare, that's quote unquote warfare. So the question is, how do you attain joy? Because so much of our literature, and I can overwhelm you guys, but I won't. I want to keep it simple, deals with how do you get joy? Okay, how do you bring joy into your life where there isn't very much? Okay, now joy is defined as happiness. And I look at happiness in terms of three parameters. Okay, three parameters of joy. Okay, and what are these parameters? Okay, let me get the zoom up here for some reason. Okay, what are the three parameters? Number one, what is joy? How do we define it? We can define it in terms of an absolute definition, or we can define it in terms of a temporal definition. What do I mean by temporal? Temporal means by time. How long does this period of joy last? Okay, the duration and the intensity. How strong is your feeling of joy? Is it just something you're going to a bar mitzvah, you don't even know the family, but you're partaking in someone else's joy, and there's a table of single malt liquor, different categories of single malt liquor, and you have moments of joy. Okay, and Chanoch is here. Shalom, Chanoch. Can you hear me? Unmute yourself like last time. Baruch haba. Okay. Okay, we're talking about Chanok. We're talking about Sason and Simcha, joy. And I picked out a poem that Rabbi Cohen urged us to read on his bulletin called Joy Looks Back. Chanok, ata shomeh oti?
Yes, I'm listening.
Okay. All right. So he's with us. And he's a man full of joy. He lives in Jerusalem. Okay. If you don't enjoy, but can you define that as joy? If you don't internalize, and you're at a bar mitzvah, everybody's having a great time, but sadly, you lost a dear one a month ago. You're in Shiva, 30-day Shiva. Can you really internalize it? So that's a good question. So you can't. You have to be open to it. Number one, to enjoy an experience, prerequisite. You got to be open to it. You have to be ready to share in someone else's. Can you share? Which is another parameter you have to ask yourself. Can you share? How long does it take? And what's the intensity? Do I really feel a long-lasting joy, or is it just very temporal, very short? Okay. And how does this relate to Judaism? I mean, that's a major question I've been struggling with here for the last month or so with this poem. How do you define in terms of your Jewish experience?
You define joy in three ways. You said you're going to define three ways.
Well, yes. Number one, she said you have to be open to it. Am I really open to it?
Okay.
Okay. Number two is temporarily. Is it? And that's two parts. Okay. Number one is how long does it last, this period of joy? Is it something that lasts? You're a happy person. I'm happy all the time. Yeah, there are moments of sadness. There are moments that I have to go to a shiva. Maybe it involves a personal loss where my joy is diminished, but you still have basically joy. And the question is, how long does it last? The intensity, how strong is it? And does it last? Is it more just going to bar mitzvah and drinking, having a good time with people? You go home and you're back to your old state, And how do we? And this is the main question, which leads to possibly a second session on this fascinating subject. I'm just so fascinated. Is how does it relate to my Jewish experience? Okay, introduce it very briefly. There is a concept. Hanoch knows it from the Talmud, and we know it's called the idea is an extra neshama that you have on Shabbat. Okay, it's netirat nefesh. Am I right? Is that the word, Hanoch?
No, neshama yetera.
Yeah, yetera. Yeah, nefesh yetera, and extended nefesh, and I think that's very much part of our Jewish tradition because the rabbis, the ancient sages of the Talmud and Mishnah, as well as modern rabbis, dwell a lot on that. There's so much literature on that, but that's where we're heading next time. I don't think we'll have time today, but I'm just introducing the idea of permanency. The more permanent that your joy, your period of happiness, simcha and sason, is a part of your personality, the happier you're going to be. I mean, that's how you define happiness on our level. Okay, the rabbis talk about happiness in the world to come, as Chanukh knows. So many rabbis talk about the simcha in the world to come. You can't match that. Well, that we have no way of describing that, but we can only imagine. Now, I use the word imagination. Now, the poem that I have today, let me get it on up screen if I can get it for Chanukh. Share screen. All right, share. Okay, let me get this poem up. It's called Joy Comes Back. Let me see if I can get it on the screen. Joy Comes Back. Okay, let me get it. All right, come on. All right, it should be up for Chanukh right now.
Yeah, I see.
Yeah, and last time, Chanukh, my computer froze. It freezes. I mean, this technology is not, and if I freeze, I'm sorry, but you and I can still have the conversation. I just cannot use the screen share. That's the problem. Okay, so why did I choose this poem? You already guys know that. The rabbi introduced me to it. I went to it. I said, wow, this is quite a poem. Now, this is a woman. She is a poetess. She is a Scots lady, and it's fascinating. She's only 48 years old. She lives in a small village in Scotland, and she became a well-known poet because during COVID, every nation was traumatized by lockdown, and this turned her into a publishing sensation. She was always writing. She tried careers in music. She failed. She tries career in promotion, in entertainment. It failed. But for some reason, she always enjoyed writing. And during the COVID lockdown, she wrote a lot and she started posting it on TikTok and these other social media. And all of a sudden, she became a phenomenon in the UK. Poetry sales, which were very, very minimal, interest in Shakespeare. Gosh, the fall off in Shakespearean theaters across the globe has fallen off about 40% in the last 10 years. People are not going to listen to hear Shakespeare, listen to poetry. People are turning off the poetry. So as she became a phenomenon, the sales of poetry in England soared to like 11 million pounds of poetry was sold as a result of her selling. She sold 70,000 of her books, but because poetry became an in thing, people were locked in their home and had very little else to do. They started reading poetry, and she's very sensitive. She is a very sensitive person, and people have called her cheeky. They think she's cheap and all that. Now, since I'm going to limit us to in time, I had a poem that I was going to read to you guys. It's an introduction. You guys, I think you'd like to hear it because this will give you an idea of how she writes. She writes down to earth with beautiful images that people that don't even read poetry, we like her for some reason. Okay.
By the way, if you put in his email address, we could send him the scan of this.
No, he has it up here.
Oh, yeah, so.
Yeah. technology. Okay, technology. Wait, thank you, Dr. Bruce. Okay, this is called History We Remember. She wrote this during the lockdown. She writes, History will remember when the world stopped and the flights stayed on the ground and the cars parked in the street and the trains didn't run. History will remember when the schools closed and the children stayed indoors and the medical staff walked towards the fire and they did not run. History we remember when people sang on their balconies in isolation, but so very much together in courage and song. History we remember when the people fought for their old and their weak, protected the vulnerable by doing nothing at all. History we will remember when the virus left and the houses opened and people came out and hugged and kissed and started again, kinder than before. Donna Ashworth. This poem, more than anything else, really galvanized the UK, and now she is the most successful.
This is COVID, right?
This is during COVID. You're welcome to, you can find this online. It's called History Will Remember. Okay. Historia Yizacher. Okay. Chanok. Okay. Now,
היסטוריה תיזכר, לא ייזכר.
okay. Now, Joy comes back. Yeah. And for her, it developed. She always liked writing, but she never knew she had this poet in her. And all of a sudden, being locked up and having a screen and having a tremendous, she never intended to become viral. She never, but because she had nothing else to do, she posted it. And all of a sudden, people started to read it. The word gets around, and she became a phenomenon. She is the most popular poet in the world right now. People discover, and Rabbi Cohen discovered because his associate, who is a minister, and he has an interfaith connection with a minister in Darien. The minister in Darien told him, and so he shared it with me. And so that's a reason that. Now, question is, the other question, Bruce, that I have about this poem, joy comes back. Why have that title? Why is it? And we can discuss that as time goes on. Okay. All right. So I'm going to have everybody read two lines, beginning with our good friend here. All right. Would you read the first two lines, dear?
Richard, let me start because I have only part of it.
Okay. All right. Go ahead. You only stay part of the time. Go ahead. Go ahead.
Okay, so when you finally realize that joy is less fireworks, more firefly, less orchestra,
Okay.
more birdsong.
Okay. Now, you read actually 3 lines, but that's okay. All right. Okay. I want to keep it short because this is very concentrated stuff. Okay. What's the difference between fireworks and firefly? Okay. I don't expect an answer right now, but at the end of the poem, when we sum it up, we'll see how beautiful her imagery is. She's an imagist. I don't buy this that people say, oh, she's cheesy. It means she is unbearable. She's cheap. She's catering to the masses. Well, she said, I don't care. People read it and they respond to it. I'm happy. It makes them happy. Okay. So, all right. So we have the firefly, which is a very small insect. Okay. And then the fireworks, which is a huge, event that's going on. Okay. It's a huge event. All right. Okay. Go ahead, Helene.
Oh, we're gonna talk about that?
I will talk about it as I'm trying to elicit from you answer. If you have an answer,
Well,
pipe in.
here's my answer.
Okay, go ahead.
Fireworks are made by human beings, are spectacular. Firefly is nature.
Okay,
Orchestra,
okay,
again, human beings.
you're on the right track.
Birdsong, it's nature. So appreciation of what's around you.
Okay, you're on the right track. Firefly involves nature, and that is a major distinction. Fireworks is man-made. Okay, I'll take it one step further. One is a very tiny insect, firefly, not many fire, and they come out one at a time. Fireworks is tremendous. It galvanizes your attention. Okay. Okay, Helene, next,
She will come back.
pardon, no, less orchestra. You're on.
More bird song.
Okay, Helene, what's the difference? Birdsong orchestra.
Orchestra is planned, where bird song is the part of nature.
All right, you got the nature. And also orchestra is just louder. It's more attention getting. If you hear a Beethoven Symphony Number 9, da 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 da, it galvanizes you. Whereas if you hear a bird in the trees, and you got other things on your mind, as most of us do, yeah, it means nothing. You turn away. Okay, good. All right, Stuart, you're up next.
You come back much more often, for joy will not fight with the fast pace of this life.
Okay, let's just stop there. Okay. She will come back with much more often for joy, but not fight with the fast pace of his life. What is she talking about here?
This one.
Well, go ahead, Stuart, give Stuart a chance first.
Oh,
She will not come back.
let's see. I'm not sure what the she will actually.
I'll give you a
refer
hint.
to.
I'll give you a hint. She's personifying the idea of joy. Joy is coming back.
Okay.
Joy is like a figure here. It's an
Okay.
personification. Go ahead.
Okay. Okay. Just indicating that joy is temporal.
Joy is temporary. You're right. In this situation, joy is temporary. She will not fight with the fast pace of this life. Life has so many loud distractions, whatever it is, music, people screaming. You're in a car, you've got people rushing in traffic, you've got horns blasting. You're trying to get something, read a newspaper, your spouse comes or your friend comes, a phone call, a text message. Joy cannot fight with that. Joy will not stand a chance. Joy will go right back to nature and be alone. She'll be all alone in nature. Okay, so that's what she's saying. Okay,
If she is joy, what means she
will not fight.
more often for joy? Joy for joy?
Well, that's a good point. She will not be there for herself. Joy wants to spread the word. Everybody, spread the word. You're happy. Joy is something that spreads. It's viral. I mean, that's like this poet. She's viral because you're a happy mood and people pick up on it, hopefully in a positive way. Like Colleen will tell you, there are many people that are like this that cannot pick up on joy. They just can't. I mean, they're not open to it. So she cannot fight back. Joy is trying to get a foothold in your life to get your attention. And with the fast pace of life, as we know, to make a living today, you really have to hustle. I can tell you that. I mean, you really have to hustle. I've got a job at Greenwich High School, and I got to hustle to get there on time, because I want to be there on time for the kids. So, I have a fast pace, and I cannot read poetry when I'm teaching, for instance. I've got to focus on those kids and bring some little bit of joy in their life, if it's possible. Okay. Okay, who is next? Mr. B, Dr. B, go ahead.
She's not in the shiny or the new. She breathes in the basic.
Okay,
Should I keep going?
okay, yeah, you can keep going, one more line.
Shimmers in the simple and dances the daily to and fro.
Okay, all right, so go ahead, Bruce, what is this telling you?
Is basically just you should appreciate simple things around you
Well,
that are there.
I mean, in our culture, are we fascinated with the shiny and in our culture? Do we we appreciate. I think people that come to Shirley and shop it, they drive these beautiful cars, and I love to share it with me. I mean, they're so happy, they're proud of what they have, and people love to dress up on Shabbos. Some of us here do, and it's a wonderful thing. And I wore a beautiful. I went to Brooklyn about a month ago, visited my daughter for the first time in her new apartment, and I went to Eichler's Judaica store. It's a big store, Eichler's in Brooklyn, 2 locations. And I got myself a beautiful tallis, and it has this embroidered silver collar that was attached to it. And during Yom Kippur service, I wore it for the first time. And I had some women behind me saying, we didn't know who you were. They said, we thought you'd be some celebrity because you didn't turn around. But they were fascinated with this joyful piece. To me, it was a sense of, I've been waiting years to go to Brooklyn, beat the traffic and go to the store and get what I wanted. And here I was distracting these women. They should have been focusing on the tefillah, and they're focusing on my tallis. I'm not wearing it ever again on how
But
for
they're-
Yom
They're
Kippur.
focusing on the wrong thing because they're focusing on the shiny and the new.
Well, that's
And
the whole
that's not
point. I
joy.
focused on that.
Everything else.
I didn't realize that they would focus on it. It was my error, and I really felt bad. And the next day, the Yom Kippur day, I wore my other new tallis, which didn't have it. Okay, so I mean, so I was a distraction. Okay, we all guilty of infractions. We try to make corrections. That's what it's all about, so that we can enjoy life, make other people enjoy. I felt I was not making them enjoy the Yom Kippur experience. They were, they were looking at my shining tallis. Okay. Okay, so you finished up with the which line did you? She breathes the basic. Who's up to who hasn't done it? Okay, okay. She breathes.
It was.
She breathes in the basic. Yeah.
I think next is joy has been beckoning you for many a year.
Okay. Now, yeah. Go ahead. Yeah. She dances. Good. Good. Okay. So she dances in the daily to and fro. Joy has been beckoning you. And I'll do one more line. Okay, do one more line. Yeah.
For many a year, my friend.
Okay, so she's dancing in the daily to and fro. Joy has been beckoning you. What do you?
What is the word beckoning?
Yeah, what does beckoning mean? Do you know what it means to beckon?
Requesting.
Yeah, more than that.
Encouraging.
She's been like almost begging your attention. Beckon. Do you beckon? Someone beckons you. No, you don't hear me. Now, maybe you hear me now. Okay. So she has been out there. She's in the daily life. What Miss Ashworth is saying is that joy is ready for everybody to experience in the daily life, not just in the momentary moments of drinking liquor or being at a simcha or at a party. She's out there, and for you to join with her, dance with her. Okay. For many a year, my friend. In other words, for many a year, you've tuned off to her. She's been out there for you to enjoy. But where have you been?
Actually, many a year means it
Means for a long
many
time.
years
For a long time.
or
Many years she's been out there. The simple joys.
strange grammatical.
Yeah, well,
That's how the British speak.
Yeah. This is
Whatever.
British. This is British.
poetic.
Yeah. It's poetic. It's also poetic. Many a year, and saying for a long time. You could say for a long time she's been my friend. Okay. Okay. So, and you were, and I'll do one now. And you were just too busy doing to see the very next time joy wraps her quiet warmth around you. So here I am, too busy. I'm doing my thing, running around, buying Hanukkah gifts or whatever, trying to make other people happy. Okay. And she's been trying to get her wraps around you. Okay. She wants to wrap around you, hug you, to make you a partner and dance with her. Okay. And give you quiet warmth. Okay. Again, the word here is quiet warmth, that you don't have to have the fireworks, the banging of the fireworks. You don't have to have loud music from the orchestra. It's in the simple harmony of your life. And we'll get into this with some of the great psalms that we have coming up, is that the most beautiful music to David's ears after he played his harp was the music coming from the spheres, which the Renaissance took up. But in David's way of thinking, it's the music of Hashem's created universe, and it's quiet music. It's silent music, but it lights him up. Okay. Okay. back to the first person. Who was the first person I called on? Chanoch. You're up again.
Yes,
The garden, you're the Gan Eden.
but I don't have the coming
Here
the
you
coming.
go.
Oh, okay. One moment.
Yeah.
Okay, so joy has been no
No,
because
you're up to the garden. I'm pointing to it. Can you see?
As the garden embraces.
Yeah, and it's a garden. It's one, two, three, four divisions from the bottom. Wait a second, let me go to the bottom. Yeah, so you have, here's one division, here's two division, here's three division, here you go, four divisions. So you're the garden. You see the garden now? It's right at the bottom of the screen, last two lines.
I see joy has been because this has been the very next time joy rap.
Yes, continue reading. Yeah.
Okay, the warmth around you as the garden embraces your weary body in its wildness.
Okay, this is very poetic stuff. Okay.
I
Okay.
will tell you, Richard.
Yeah.
I think the unique thing of this poem that joy usually joy is passive. It means if you are in a good mood and you are happy, you have joy.
Yeah.
The joy is independent entity. It comes from the outside and pushing you.
Yes. What she has done is it's called, oh, there's a word for it. But no, it's when you give a human trait to an object or an idea. It's called personification. You're making
Yes,
her into a person
exactly.
that is beckoning to come in. She's out there. You've got COVID. You're locked in. You know, all you can do is watch TV all day. Okay, you get tired of doing that. Or you're texting your friend. I mean, my students for a whole year lockdown, that's all they did was text her. They didn't go to class by Zoom. They should have been by Zoom. They were texting. They were having fun, and they're set back 2 years emotionally because of that. Okay, so here you are. She's on the outside, and she's trying to get in and make your life a happy one. Okay, and she's trying to embrace you. You're male, and she's trying to embrace you as a female. In its wildness, and then oh wow, Baruch haba, Eileen and Lloyd are here. Yes, Eileen and Lloyd, contract. Eileen, they have been here many a time. Okay, okay. Guys, help yourself to whatever. And there's some single malt for afterwards. Lloyd and I can have a single malt together. And Alex, celebrating our 6th year here of doing this literature. And I added lunch about 3 years ago. The lunch was my addition. Okay. All right.
It's a great addition.
Thank you. Thank you. Hey, it's my pleasure. My pleasure to keep the food on the plate and the spirits high. The spirits. Okay. So tip her a nod. That's my line. Tip her a nod. Okay. Okay. So we started with Helene. You're up. Okay. You cannot force her. Do you see her?
Graciousness, joy comes back.
I love it. Okay. Go ahead, Helene. Tell me what you see here.
One has to be receptive, not negative, but a more positive outlook.
That is the most amazing insight, which I must admit, I bow to you for your insight, because in order to experience anything in life, you've got to be open. You got to get rid of your anger, your negativity, your ingratitude, your blaming others for your own woes. And that's what she's saying here. She's saying joy will come back. And I think it's beginning to come back. People are still smarting from the emotional trauma and the physical trauma. My nephew has what's called long COVID. Long COVID.
Still,
Yeah.
still,
He has long COVID. He's getting amazing. He's got 20 treatments, and he's going to get another 20. I mean, it's an amazing journey. It's very expensive, very expensive. It's called the long COVID. You're tired all the time. You're tired, and you have inflamed nasal system, and that's what he has. He convinced my brother that he should go to this doctor. So my brother is taking him to this doctor for the long COVID treatment. So, and a lot of people passed away. Sadly, a lot of people passed away, and I'm in mourning. A close friend of mine that I visited for 6 years at Greenwich Woods, he passed away at Greenwich Woods because of COVID. So many of the nursing homes had many fatalities, and it's very sad. So this is a poem that we're talking about. It's called Joy Comes Back. It's a poem about a woman who is the most successful poet probably on the globe right now, because during COVID in Scotland, she sat in front of a computer and wrote poetry. And she decided to share this poetry online to her friends and with TikTok, and it became viral. And as a result, she sold 70,000 copies of her book, and sales of poetry in England and the UK went up like 7 times because of her success. And that's the poem. It's about how to recover joy when you've lost joy. You've lost joy. You can lose joy. To repeat, Helene said, number one, you have to be open to joy. You have to have an open personality to receive joy. You got to get rid of all of your emotional baggage, if I will. Emotional. What? Yeah, you've got to be open. You have to be open to other people and respond to them and listen to them, and minimize the flashiness of your life, all of the toys that you have that keep you busy, whether it's a brand new car, it's a new computer, or listening to rock music or orchestra music all the time. But joy is simple. Now, the difference between and I'll summarize this. She summarized the idea in comparing a firefly to a fireworks. Fireworks. What's the difference? A firefly is something small. It's beautiful. It lights up nature. It's nature. Fireworks is something that is man-made. And what her theme is that you need to find your happiness in doing the simple things in life, whatever it is. Reading poetry, writing letters, reading a good book, listening to some beautiful music, calling up a friend you haven't spoken to for 100 years, making up with a friend that you're still out of touch with a friend because you're angry at that friend. It's like a tshuva that you're doing. You're coming back to yourself. It's like refining yourself, and that's basically what we did. This will be all recorded, and I'll send you the recording so you can catch up on it. Okay. But that's basically to summarize what we've been doing for the last half hour. Go ahead. Yeah, sure.
I read a book 60 years ago that gives a solution to your problem of finding, if you have trouble finding joy, and it has illuminated my life and made my life full of joy. So I share it with you.
And what's the name of the book?
The name of the book is Winning Through Intimidation. It was written by a salesman.
Written by a
salesman. I think his name was Klein.
I remember this book
But
vaguely.
the line that I remember all these 60 years, and it runs my life now, and I'm the happiest person in the universe, and I'm going to be 90 very soon.
Mazel tov.
The saying is, this, I never forget it, it's, you're only disappointed when you've had unrealistic expectations. It's taking responsibility, and I have done that. Since I've done that, my life is beautiful. And it's joyful.
I'm so happy that you showed up at the right time. Yeah, very beautiful. Yeah. Yeah. Go ahead.
Tom, going back to right after the firefly, the orchestra and birdsong, it reminded me of something I either heard on the, maybe on the radio or read. Two fellows were walking along the city street, all the usual traffic noises, and it's pretty much all over the air. And all of a sudden, one of them says, "Oh, I hear a beautiful songbird, in the area, maybe a lark or something." The other said, "How can you hear anything with all this traffic?" They walked a short distance, and there it was, on the limb of the tree. This fellow was receptive, with all the noise around, he was receptive to something really beautiful in nature. And he was able to tune out all
Sure.
the extraneous noise and be receptive to this little
Beautiful.
beauty in nature.
Beautiful.
Mm.
Yeah, I'll make one analogy before we get into the Judaic connection, but a very strong connection comes to mind, and that is that when Moses had a calling, and the calling was very significant, and the calling involved the burning bush. He goes by a burning bush, and he stops, and he stares at it. And what about the burning bush? What about the burning bush? Lloyd, come on. What amazed Moses about the burning bush?
Because the bush itself didn't burn out.
It didn't burn out. It was just, but the point is, like with Stuart, Moses was perceptive enough in the rush of life, because many people must have gone through that bush and just went right by it and don't pay attention. And yet Moses was perceptive enough to stop and pick up a message that I'm supposed to, and look, why is this fascinating me? The bush doesn't burn out. I mean, look at these branches and they're still there. Okay. So that's, in a sense, what this poem is to stop and smell the roses. You've heard that expression. The roses are out there and you got to smell them. It's hard, but you got to take yourself away from preoccupation with whatever is distracting you and really try to smell the roses. And that's, it's hard to do, but it's out there for everybody to. Yes, Lloyd.
I saw the burning bush in Egypt. And right next to the burning bush, well, I mean, it was a bush with red roses,
Yes.
red flowers on it. Right next to it was the well of Miriam.
Was the well of Miriam. Awesome.
And
He's a tourist.
Wow.
I was
Right?
amazed.
Wow. The tour, wow.
He's a tourist. Thing,
Is,
right?
is it really? I have no idea. I have no doubt, but that's why it's so, and this church had right next to it a mosque
Okay.
with a very tall spire, taller than the church. Because when the Arabs came, they insisted in order the church to stay, they had to allow a very tall mosque to
Wow.
be built.
Yeah.
I thought that was interesting. So.
Okay. So
So
I'm
I
good.
think we should also realize that even each of us in itself is a miracle, because the fact that we're alive and all these processes to keep us alive, we should appreciate that we're each a miracle. Let alone everything around us is a miracle. Everything in balance is a miracle.
Right on, Bruce. I mean,
Well,
you're pushing ahead
we
to
don't
what
think about it, but that's the truth.
well, just the very fact that we wake up every morning with our limbs intact is a wonder to me. That you wake up
How
and
about
get
you
out.
wake up?
The fact that you wake up, yeah, exactly. The fact that you wake up, yeah. Okay, so we are going to make a transition now to a number of Psalms, but I'm keeping it to a minimum because I think we'd rather absorb one and give you a smattering. Okay, that's always been my contention. There are three poems that I've chosen here. This poem, Psalm 19, and then there's another beautiful poem we might get to, Psalm 93, and then a third one. Okay, I chose these poems because they really resonate with the message of Donna Ashworth's poem, that nature is around for us to discover. And the more that we realize the beauty in nature, the more we realize that there is some type of spirit behind the beauty behind the irrevocable punctuality of the sun rising in the morning and the sun setting in the evening, the stars coming out at night and illuminating the universe. That these obvious, beautiful events are the starting point for man to really appreciate a higher being, a higher spirit. Okay. So that's the idea. Let us all turn to Psalm number 19, which you should have in front of you. Okay. It's a two-part poem with an abrupt change at verse 7. There are two different sources of knowledge of God. Okay. Number one, we marvel at his creation, seen through the wonder of God as seen in the heavenly stars. So when you look up, you see the beauty of the universe. And when you go up to the mountains, what I like during the summer in the mountains, there is no distraction of lighting, artificial lighting, that you see the sky in its full panoply and its full array, the way it was meant to be seen. And it's just a wonder that Venus is always there. You always see Venus, the brightest star in the sky. It's a 90-degree angle. I mean, why does Venus arise every night at the same time? And I can only imagine that Abraham, who founded the Abrahamic religions, the monotheistic religion, had that wonder. He paused enough from and had joy in life to look up every night and say, I mean, it's amazing. I mean, stars come out in the same more configuration. The sun rises every morning, sun sets in the evening. In the desert climate, you don't have that much bad weather, so you have it's the constant. Hemingway wrote a novel called The Sun Also Rises, about the inevitability of events in life, that certain things are a given, okay, a given. And we live in a temporal world, and the temporal world gives us temporal pleasure. And how do we make the pleasures stick with us? How can they prolong them beyond the moment? Okay, and that's what these poems are about, the Psalms that we're about. Okay. It's a psalm that I covered in an earlier session, but no, it was an earlier session when there were just a few of us. And so it's like fresh for you guys, but it's the second time around for me. But it of all of the Psalms, this one really speaks. It speaks to the natural images, conveying soundless messages to man, expressing God's eternal presence. So that's basically the idea here. Okay. Limnatzech Mizmor David, for the leader, a psalm of David. So who are we up to now? Who were you the last one that read? Okay, so after you, it was Hanoka. Hanoka, you're here.
I'm here, but I don't have the
Okay, אני צריך את השיר של דוד, שיר, okay, השיר הזה, okay, Psalm 19.
Okay.
Psalm 19. Let me get you to the beginning of screen share, okay? יש לך פה, כן?
Yes.
Okay, so why don't you read the first two lines, Hebrew and English, or in English, whatever you want to do.
Okay, אז השמיים מספרים כבוד אל, ומעשה ידיו מגיד הרקיע. יום ליום יביע עומר, ולילה ללילה יחווה דעה.
Okay, translate it. Your own translation or this, whatever suits you. Hanok knows Hebrew better than anybody here.
Okay, so the first line is, the sky are telling us the dignity of God, and the rakia, another word for sky.
Yes.
The rakia is telling us God's creation.
Good.
His hands did.
Okay, now
And
again, what's happening here, excellent translation. He is personifying the sky, meaning the Shamayim, he's giving it as if it is a person. He's saying the sky is telling a Sipur. What is the Sipur, Helene? Sipur. It's telling a story. It's talking to us. It's telling us, narrating. So how can the sky narrate? Can the sky narrate? Come on. Alex. So this is what you call a metaphor. A metaphor is basically illustrating through words something which is not possible in reality, but it's trying to tell you a higher communication. So in this case, the sun is a higher communication. It's there every day, and it's telling the glory of God. I mean, what he's saying is that the sun rises every day and sets every day because there is an entity, a spirit behind it called Hashem. Okay. And he's making God into a worker, if you will. Maaseh Yadav, God is a worker. The work of his handiwork declares, the sky proclaims his handiwork. The sky is another, it's the rakia, it's the sky above the supreme heaven, so it's close to us. Okay. So again, he's using nature. Nature is using David is using it to show the greatness of God. Okay. Okay, 3 and 4, who comes next? Who came afterwards? Okay, Lloyd, you guys got to get in there. I know you may be next, but we'll get you in there. Scream enough and we'll get you in. You come next time because we're going to run over till next time. Okay, go ahead. Well, you're reading number 3 in English, right?
Day to day makes utterance, night to night speaks out.
Okay, one more.
There is no utterance, there are no words whose sound goes unheard.
Now, yeah, I mean, that's nice. There are no words unheard. There's a little bit of rhyme here. It's good. Internal rhyme, they call it. Okay, so Dad, tell us what you see here. That
that the physical world doesn't give great rise to the actual world. So you have to think and dream that what you think it is, because the real world won't give it to you.
okay, let's break it down. You're on the right track. Day to day makes utterance. I think what he may be saying here is the fact that we have the sun that rises and the sun that sets, that we have a day, complete day, gets dark, complete day. That is amazing. It happens, been happening forever. That declares, okay, it speaks to us of a higher consciousness that is behind this, okay? It's speaking, utterance is a speak, it speaks out. Night to night, the fact that the night appears, and every night you see the beautiful panoply of stars and the moon. When it's phases of the moon doesn't always stay like a big piece of cheese. You know, people eat the cheese, it gets smaller and smaller. So this is an amazing, again, that God is behind us. That's what he's saying, okay? Okay, and very interesting, there is no utterance, there are no words. It's a play on words. I mean, this is fantastic stuff. Ein omer, ein devarim, b'li nishma kolam. He's saying basically that God's universe that he set is basically an unspoken universe. You don't hear it, but it's unspoken, but no sound. No, the stars make sounds to the perceiver. It's amazing. You're lit up with emotion. Emotion is, takes you to a higher level and you feel it's speaking to you. Wow, I love that. I want to take a picture of it, okay? So no sound of God goes unheard, and that God can appear through his quiet, repetitive universe. Everything repeats itself day in and day out. It's a beautiful concept. Now we can do one more and give you guys a chance, or we can postpone. But my instinct is, since you came late, and I knew you guys really made an effort to come, Eileen, why don't you do Arlene number 5, and then we'll recess and we'll pick up next time. And I have a lot of more great stuff to share with you, and we will get to the idea of what it means to be an extra soul on the Sabbath. I mean, that's where we're getting to is how do you get to that level? What do you mean an extra soul? I mean, I've got my own soul. You're going to give me an extra soul on the Sabbath. So there's a lot for us to discuss, but we're leading up like Jacob's ladder to a higher understanding. Go ahead, Arlene. You're number 5. Okay.
Their voice carries throughout the earth, their words to the end of the world.
Yeah, he placed in them.
He placed in them a tent for the sun,
Okay. All right.
who was
So,
like a groom.
no. Just finish up there. Yeah. Yeah. There's enough here for us to talk about.
He placed in
Yeah.
the tent for the sun.
Okay. The voice carries throughout the earth. Whose voice? What voice? Is it a human voice?
No human voice.
Daber. Let's hear your voice.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They
Yeah.
try to
Yeah.
the
Okay.
the human voice that is not existing. Yes, it is silent, but the missing of the human voice is representing the glory of the superpower.
Exactly. That the voices that the sun in its rising and setting every day, giving you life, sustenance, making you feel full of joy if you're open to it. Okay. That gives you joy. So that is the voice. It's the voice of the repetitive aspect of the glory of the divine. Hashem is up there and he displays himself through his instruments, if you will, through his illuminations, through his glory, as you say, glory, through his divinations. These are all words to describe God's emanations. The glory of God is in his handiwork. That's the idea. And go ahead.
Do we think that this is such an amazing feat to perform, to give us this world? Do you think that we are truly the only world in this world, that we are so blessed to have this creation around us that is predictable and that we are living by, and God did not choose any other planet to get these gifts. And why?
Beautiful. I could take off on that, but I won't because of time wise. He placed them a tent for the sun. He gave them an ohel. He gave them the Shem Shem ohel bahem. What is he getting at here? Anybody take a stab? It's a little complicated, I must admit. But if you picture that the sun is beating down in the Middle East, and it's very strong there. We know the desert is very, very warm during the summer. And man needs shade. Man needs shade. So he placed in them, I think he means in us, in his creation. We're a creation of man. He gave us a tent in which to shield ourselves from the power that he has. And there's a lot of midrash on this. Hanok and I studied the Talmud and how when people get too close to the sun, the rabbis talk about, they begin losing their mind. I mean, there are people that just get like Icarus in Greek myth. Icarus had wings and he flew too close to the sun. What happened to him? What happened to his wings? They melted. He perished. And so what he's saying here is that God gave us a protection, not only to give us this great universe, but he doesn't want us, his beings, we're chosen people, to perish. So he's given us an ohel where we can shield and study Torah and study poetry and enjoy life together. I'm going to stop it here because I know that it's an hour and you guys are welcome to have more food. You're welcome to stay and we can talk a little bit more.
People should take the food home, right?
You can take another one. Sure, take another one home.
People should
To
take
your
it home.
beloved. I did offer Matt Feinberg, who's been
Well, get some for
instrumental,
Matt.
and I will save one for him. Yeah. And from my other half, Deborah, my other half, working away very hard in the at the archive. Take it now. Well, I like that. Okay, I'm signing off. Look forward to us meeting next month. I will post our meeting. We will meet in 2025. Happy Hanukkah to everybody and a happy New Year. Yeah, bye.
אוקיי,